during his recent visit, but North Korea accused the U.S. of making gangster-like demands. Now, despite the turbulence, President Donald Trump has unveiled a personal letter from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un saying that great progress is being made. We'll delve deeper into what the meaning this may have and more regards to the latest North Korean developments with an expert in the studio later. But first, let's head over to our news center where Devin Whiting will update us with the latest headlines. Devin, what have you got for us?
Hi, Minji. Well, President MoonJae-in has wrapped up his three-day state visit to Singapore with a lecture outlining his vision and policy for peace and prosperity, following up on the inter-Korean and North Korea-U.S. summits. Our chief Blue House correspondent, Moon Kan-young, reports.
In a city-state which just a month earlier saw the leaders of North Korea and the U.S. come together for a historic summit, South Korean President MoonJae-in laid out his vision and policy for lasting peace and denuclearization on the Korean peninsula, one as daring as the one he presented in Berlin a year ago.
한국은 한반도의 완전한 비핵화와 평화를 기반으로 새로운 경제 지도를 그리게 될 것입니다. 남북은 경제 공동체를 향해 나아갈 것입니다.
A single economic community of the two Koreas, creating partnership for the future with Southeast Asian countries for people, co-prosperity, and peace. This is President Moon Jae-in's new Southern policy, a vision that he shared at the 42nd Singapore lecture hosted by the Yusuf Ishak Institute of Southeast Asian Studies.
한미 양국은 북한의 평창 올림픽 참가, 양국의 특사단 왕래, 남북 정상회담과 북미 정상회담에 이르는 역사적 대전환의 모든 과정을 함께 해왔으며 앞으로도 함께 나갈 것입니다.
The South Korean president also made sure to send out a message to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, a message of prosperity, but with a premise.
김정은 위원장이 비핵화의 약속을 지킨다면 자신의 나라를 번영으로 이끌어갈 수 있을 것입니다.
He vowed to do his utmost to establish a peace regime so that economic cooperation with the North could begin. But
만약에 국제사회 앞에서 정상이 직접 한 약속을 지키지 않는다면 국제사회로부터 엄중한 심판을 받게 될 것입니다.
this time of the year last year, President Moon stood in Berlin and spoke of peace and dialogue with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, when most people thought of it as impossible. A year later, here we are in one of the world's most vibrant market economies. President Moon is speaking of a new economic map on the Korean peninsula, one that links the two Koreas. Where this will take us a year from now remains to be seen. Reporting from Singapore, Moon Kan-young, Arirang News.
Now, before he wrapped up his time in Singapore, President Moon also met with Korean nationals living there. He praised their work and promised that his new Southern policy will be good for them too. Our Blue House correspondent Hwang Ho-jun has this report.
President Moon said that his visits to India and Singapore served as an opportunity to raise South Korea's diplomatic relations to the next level. Those remarks came during his meeting with nearly 400 local Korean residents and about 50 Singaporeans who contributed to the friendship between the two countries. During the meeting, President Moon said the strengthened cooperation with Singapore will speed up the progress of his new Southern policy, Seoul's effort to boost cooperation with ASEAN to the same levels as it has with the US, China, Japan, and Russia. He insisted such results will improve the livelihoods of Korean nationals in Singapore. President Moon praised the efforts of Korean residents in Singapore to maintain friendly relations between the two countries and expressed his gratitude for their strong support for the historic Pyongyang-Washington summit hosted in Singapore last month. President Moon pledged to boost cooperation with Singapore and work together in technologies linked to the Fourth Industrial Revolution so that Koreans in Singapore working in those areas would not only strive but thrive. With that, President Moon completed his final public event before heading back to Korea after completing his 6-day trip to South and Southeast Asia. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News, Singapore.
Back here on the peninsula, North Korea was a no-show at Panmunjom yesterday. Officials from Pyongyang were supposed to meet with officials from UN Command to discuss the repatriation of American troops killed in the north during the Korean War. But the talks have been rescheduled for this coming Sunday, July 15th. Park Hee-jun has more.
Officials from North Korea were expected to meet Thursday with UN command officials representing the United States to discuss repatriating the remains of American troops who went missing in action during the Korean War. Returning the remains was something North Korean leader Kim Jong-un promised to do when he met last month with U.S. President Donald Trump in Singapore, and it was considered a huge step forward in building trust between Pyongyang and Washington. Talks on implementing the agreement were due to be held on Thursday at the tourist village of Panmunjom, as arranged last week in Pyongyang by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and senior North Korean official Kim Yong-chol. The U.S. had already sent 100 wooden caskets to Panmunjom to carry the soldiers' remains back home once an agreement was reached. But North Korean officials never showed up. According to the U.S. State Department, the North contacted the U.S. side later in the day, offering to hold the talks on Sunday instead. Seoul-based Yonhap news agency, citing government sources, also reported that Pyongyang proposed holding them at the general level, strongly hinting that the North wants a senior U.S. military official present at the negotiations. Sources say North Korea made a direct call to the UN command through a line that was suspended for 5 years after North Korea called off the signing of a ceasefire agreement in 2013. Pyongyang is known to have asked for the military channel to be restored, and after it was restored, to have asked for understanding for the delay that was caused by its lack of preparation. The State Department accepted the proposal, and so the two sides will finally meet for their overdue talks on Sunday to carry out the agreement from the Singapore summit. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
In other news, data from South Korea's central bank show that prices for both exports and imports went up last month. The main reason imports got more expensive was that the Korean won fell against the dollar. Higher prices for goods coming into the country will likely be passed on to local consumers. Our Kim Hye-sung has the details.
South Korea's import prices went up for the 6th consecutive month in June due to the weakening Korean won. The Bank of Korea says the import price index rose 1.3% on month, recording 88.26 in June. Compared to the same period last year, the index is up nearly 11%, marking the biggest jump in 17 months. The local currency weakened against the U.S. dollar, recording an average of 1,092.81 last month, pushing up Korea's import prices despite a slight fall in global oil prices. In particular, raw material prices went up 1.4% on month, or more than 26% on year. Without the change in the $1 exchange rate, the Bank of Korea says June's import prices would have ticked down 0.1% on month. Export prices edged up around 1% on month to 85.68, continuing its upward streak for a third consecutive month. The central bank attributes the rising export prices to an increase in industrial goods prices, including metals and machinery. Export and import prices affect future consumer prices, so this could mean higher inflation in the months to come. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines at this hour.
U.S. President Donald Trump shared a letter he received from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on Twitter. This letter comes despite concerns that Kim is taking little action towards surrendering his nuclear weapons. Lee Seung-jae reports.
President Trump revealed a letter from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un via Twitter on Thursday, with a message that read, "A very nice note from Chairman Kim of North Korea," with Trump adding that great progress is being made. Along with the message were two images of the letter, one in Korean and the other in English. Dated July 6th, the note was likely the one given to U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo during his visit to Pyongyang last week. In the letter, the North Korean leader expresses deep appreciation for the extraordinary efforts made by President Trump for the improved bilateral relations between the two countries and the faithful implementation of the joint statement, referring to the agreement signed by the two leaders at their summit in Singapore last month. Kim added that with the strong will, sincere efforts, and unique approach by the two leaders, a new future will happen, expressing optimism for the two countries and their relations. Meanwhile, attending the annual NATO summit in Brussels on Thursday, both President Trump and Pompeo expressed their confidence in the diplomatic process with the North. Pompeo said his counterpart Kim Yong-chul made a commitment, adding that North Korea intends to denuclearize. But the big question remains on when the complete denuclearization will actually begin, as the two countries continue to discuss ways to make their commitments in their Singapore agreement a reality. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And to walk us through the intentions behind U.S. President Donald Trump and what the letter could mean at a time when there are suspicions about North Korea's sincerity and denuclearization, we have with us Dr. Chung Dae-jin, a research fellow at the Aju Institute of Unification. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, it's unprecedented for a president to unveil a personal letter from his counterpart. Along with the letter, President Trump tweeted, "Great progress is being made." It's dated back July 6th, so the note was likely given to the U.S. Secretary of State during his visit last week. Why do you think Trump decided to unveil the letter at this moment in time?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's very unusual to reveal the letter from his counterpart. Yeah. I think the President Trump would like to take the momentum of the dialogue until the end of the upcoming November election. For President Trump, this is the reality show to show for the world audience. But many argues and many criticize the result and the process and progress of the ongoing dialogue between U.S. and North Korea. So President Trump would like to take the momentum to still going on, and then President Trump should strive to keep the momentum of this dialogue. So he would like to pinpoint, and he would like to stress the willingness of his counterpart, Chairman Kim's willingness toward the denuclearization at the point. Yeah.
Now, in the letter, the North Korean leader expresses appreciation for the extraordinary efforts made on President Trump's part for improving bilateral relations between the two and for the faithful implementation of their joint agreement. But there was no direct mention of denuclearization in there. What can we make of Kim Jong-un's intention through the letter in regards to the ongoing talks between the two sides?
That's why U.S. experts strongly criticize the ongoing process of the U.S. and NK dialogue regarding the denuclearization. The one point of U.S. would like to listen from North Korea side is the CVID, denuclearization, but there was no clear and explicit express of the CVID from the North Korea. But we must have a cool eye on denuclearization from now on. Because in the letter, the Chairman Kim mentioned the faithful implementation of the joint agreement. But when he reminded the joint agreement, the third clause is about the denuclearization. The subject of the denuclearization was the DPRK. The DPRK commit to work toward the complete denuclearization. I think this is the first time for North Korea to reveal its name as a subject to the denuclearization issues. And it is the promises to the world audience as a part of the reality show. And then, as President Moon mentioned, this is the promise of the two leaders in front of the world audience. So we should have a cool eye and to wait for the progress and how the U.S. and North Korea make the promise in real.
Now, a set of talks were scheduled to take place between North Korea and the U.S. On Thursday regarding the repatriation of American troops killed in the North during the Korean War. Now, however, it was a no-show on Pyongyang's part, and they actually proposed general-level talks to be held on July 15th. What do you make of North Korea's move?
I think there are two possibilities. The one possibility is the technical problem. North Korea may lack of the technicals on forensic, and then at this point, the North Korea should be cautious to send the the remains in 100% genuine remains. In the past, there were some controversial stories that North Korea sent the animal bones, but at this point, North Korea should not make that kinds of mistakes. So I think North Korea may very be cautious about that technical problem, but I think North Korea may not prepared well until now. And the second possibility is North Korea would like to take the initiative with the upcoming U.S. dialogue with the U.S. North Korea apparently wants a U.S. general to appear on the negotiation table, and they would like to heighten and then take the initiative dialogue with U.S.
Now, sources say that North Korea made the proposal directly to the UN command through a line that was suspended for 5 years after Pyongyang called off the signing of a ceasefire agreement in 2013. Do you see the restoration of this line to have any significance?
In the past, comparing to the past, is a very much progress from the North Korean side. North Korea in 1990s, North Korea always decried and denounced the function of the UN command, and then they refused the role and presence of the UN command. And in 1994, North Korea sent a letter to the UN Secretary General that to request the confirmation of the status and the eligibility of the UN command. Comparing to the past, this is a very good signal to admit the counterpart as a counterpart, to admit the UNC as a counterpart, and then to use the UNC communication lines is the natural signal, and then it's a very good signal to maintain the dialogue.
Now, upon mounting concerns in regards to North Korea's determination towards denuclearization, South Korean President MoonJae-in, who is currently in Singapore, said that the North's criticism directed at the U.S. is just a negotiation tactic and that the negotiations are actually going on the right track. What do you think President Moon why do you think President Moon made such comments? Do you see it as a move to brush off such concerns?
Until now, there are many good reputations that President Moon has performed as a good mediator and good facilitator to make the dialogues in real. And then, so I think the President Moon also would like to take the momentum of the dialogue. And then, but President Trump would like to the dialogue. The momentum of dialogue for his political purpose for the upcoming November election, but the President Moon is a very desperate for and desirable for the progress of inter-Korean relations and then the real denuclearization of the North Korea, because he is the president of the South Korea, and the South Korean is placed on the Korean Peninsula. Yeah, this is our ground. So he has a real genuine willingness to take the dialogue until dialogue to end without any product.
Now, the South Korean president has also emphasized that, unlike in the past, that what North Korea wants is not easing of sanctions or economic compensation, but rather ending hostilities and building trust. But with North Korea and the U.S. seemingly having hit a stumbling block, quite apart on the declaring of the end of war during recent follow-up negotiations, do you think there needs to be a change in the direction of where the negotiation go from here on?
President Moon has a plan to deepen the economic cooperation between inter-Korean economic cooperation. That is another direction into the South Korea can guarantee for the North Korea. U.S. will guarantee its security, and then the path to the global society, and then the South Korea can guarantee and can provide some economic aid to North Korea as a counterpart under the inter-Korean special relations. That's the genuine role of South Korea.
Now, President Moon Jae-in gave a special lecture in Singapore on Friday where he called for sincere efforts on all sides to move the North Korean denuclearization process forward. Now, it's a year on from when he made the Berlin Declaration in which he laid out his roadmap for peace on the Korean peninsula. Now, looking at his speech, what is the president's next vision for denuclearization?
Last year, there was a Berlin Declaration, but this past Singapore lecture did not touch that kind of level of the Berlin Declaration or some political visions. But it is in the continuation of this current political willingness to deepen the inter-Korean relations and make the North Korea go toward the denuclearization. As President Moon said before, the denuclearization issue is under the hand of the U.S. and NK dialogue. But as a facilitator and as a guarantor of the dialogue, South Korea can take the momentum for the dialogue to keep going on. So his vision of the denuclearization is to take the momentum of the dialogue keep going on and to guarantee the situation and negotiation table is ongoing. Yeah.
Staying with the speech, the president also emphasized the importance of inter-Korean economic cooperation and North Korea's cooperation, economic exchanges with ASEAN member states down the line. Now, his speech comes as there are concerns that North Korea and the U.S. may have hit a stumbling block in the process towards denuclearization. What should we make of these remarks?
We should persuade Kim to the denuclearization negotiation table, and we should Chairman Kim will feel some safety when he come toward to the negotiation table. North Korea has some very concern about its legitimate security. As the last June 12 declaration stated, the first agreement was the new establishment, new improvement to U.S. and DPRK relations, and through the U.S. DPRK relations improvement, DPRK would like to guarantee its safety. That's the key of the main goal of the DPRK. So to give and then to have Chairman Kim come to the negotiation table as guaranteeing and securing its security, and to have him on the table, it will be the main key.
Now, you did briefly mention it, but before we let you go, it's been just over a month since the North Korea-U.S. summit in Singapore. Now, President Moon has said that his goal is to be able to declare an end of war by the end of this year, and it's likely that he will step up his role as a mediator. What kind of role should we be expecting?
As I mentioned just before, our role should be beyond the mediator. The South Korea government is stationed on the Korean Peninsula, and South Korean people should live on the Korean Peninsula. Unless we move the other countries, we should live here. Yeah? So we should play a role beyond the mediator. We are the direct contracting part of the new peace and prosperity on the Korean Peninsula. So the South Korean government should be played as beyond the mediator and beyond the facilitator, as a guarantor to the negotiations march toward the denuclearization and then peace and prosperity on the Korean Peninsula, and for the bright future. Yeah. the guarantor, and then the direct contracting party of the new treaty and then the new peace regime of the Korean Peninsula. That's our main goal. Denuclearization at this point overwhelmed all diplomatic issues, but for us, from the South Korean perspective, the denuclearization is the interim goals, not the final goal. The South Koreans' final goal should be the to make the unified Koreans on the peaceful and then on the peaceful Korean Peninsula.
Okay, that's where we wrap things up. Thank you for your insights today.
Okay, thank you.
Now that's it from us here at Arirang News, but do tune in to our later newscasts throughout the day for the latest updates. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Literally speaking, the essence of love in a short poem. Grass flower, pretty with a close look.